Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into where is your twin flame on their spiritual awakening and ascension journey. So today actually marks the 7-year anniversary of my personal spiritual awakening. It's amazing how much has changed over the last 7 years for me personally. So I thought it would be good to tap into these energies, this very special day, and take a peek into what's going on with your twin flame, what's happening as far as their awakening, what's happening as far as their ascension, to see any of the sort of shadows that they are dealing with currently, the victories that they're having, kind of where they're at in this whole process. And before I get into the reading, I wanted to start with the channel announcements. If you would like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. The format over there is a little different from here. I do pick a cards as well as general energy check-ins related to subjects such as spirituality, ascension, wellness, and self-love. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that out, and I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. So in terms of this reading, there are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Serpentine. Group 2 is the Rose Quartz. And group 3 is the Amethyst. So let me hold these up all together to give you a better kind of view of the selections here. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. Hi, group 1. You chose the Serpentine. So I want to start with this deck. It's just going to be kind of a free-form reading. Again, we're just taking a peek into things, seeing what's going on with your twin flame right now, as far as their spiritual awakening, their ascension journey, some of the shadows they may be confronting, some of the victories that they've achieved, archetypes that they're dealing with or reimagining in some way, just whatever wants to come through. Okay, we have blame. I accept responsibility for my well-being. Trust. I accept that my inner voice will always guide me correctly. And death. I am learning that endings are merely beginnings. So this death energy right here, this can definitely talk about the dissolution of the ego. Some difficult things that your twin flame is needing to confront, to release, to let go of. It almost feels like for a lot of you, these may be things that are forcibly being removed by the universe. Your twin may have been very resistant to the process of ascension, very resistant to the process of spiritual awakening, which is definitely, it's a bumpy ride. It's an uncomfortable experience. A lot of the shadow aspects, kind of the dark night of the soul energy, it's definitely not comfortable. The process of metamorphosis and transformation on a deep personal level, on a core level. It's not a journey and a process for the faint of heart. And it almost feels like if you have really surrendered, if you have been the one who has really leaned into things, you've tried to go with the flow of the opportunity, you've come to a place of peace about your situation with your twin flame, kind of turning your gaze to the wider implications of how does this experience serve me at a personal level, rather than being so fixated or focused kind of on what's going on with them, when are they coming back, are they missing me, are they suffering, are they enjoying the time apart. I mean, having gone through that kind of process, that being a very necessary chapter in the phase of evolution, it almost feels that kind of that fixated, that obsessive sort of energy that you may have transcended, your twin is now kind of in the thick of all of that, still kind of casting blame or really being shown kind of ways in which they had unfairly applied blame, maybe to you in this situation, blaming you for the intensity of whatever was activated within them, whatever had kind of like gone awry in your situation up to this point in time. Maybe even just like some deep telepathy going on between the two of you, some kind of deep empathic energetic bond where they had kind of gone on the defensive about this. It almost feels that the walls are closing in and they're kind of like running out of people to blame. They're running out of ways to kind of project and run from themselves, from their shadow, from a lot of unhealed wounds within themselves. And Spirit is really, again, kind of like creating these endings for them. This can even talk about, for some, this has been like literal losses, like a loss of, finances, a loss of job, maybe even a loss of a friend or a family member, something that has really brought them to their knees. It has functioned as like a period of reckoning that in the course of mourning whatever this transition is, it has created an aperture. It has created an opening within themselves, within any kind of resistance or walls that they had up, for almost the light of Spirit to flow through, the energy of this connection to kind of reach them on this deeper level. The tears that they may be crying are almost functioning like a river to carry them deeper into places within the psyche and within the core of themselves that had been overlooked and that are almost triggered or exacerbated by the nature of this connection. Even if you're in no contact with one another, again, the changes in the evolution that takes place with you, it reverberates to them. It's almost an invitation to them to start to kind of participate with this process. Not, aside just from the idea of like 3D physical union with one another, twin flame dynamic goes far beyond kind of the implications of love and romance. That can often be seen as like a cherry on the cake. The twin flame experience, at least from my own personal vantage point, from my own personal experience, it really has more to do with the kind of elevation of the soul, the expansion of one's purpose and understanding of what that means, the idea to be a spirit having a human experience. It allows us to take deep personal responsibility for ourselves, to see our own shadows kind of mirrored in the reflection of others, our twin and others around us. It is that crossroads point that, provides the opportunity for something more in an accessible way. And this feels like something that, if your twin had not really understood this, had been avoiding this up to this point in time, they're being confronted with this knowledge very directly within themselves through what is kind of falling away. They're starting to understand very acutely kind of the temporary nature of all things, the finite nature of this earthly existence as a counterpart energy to the eternity of the soul. That what they have been focusing on, prioritizing up to this point in time, it's kind of limited in terms of the scope of sort of spiritual wealth that imparts. And as these things are falling away or being taken away or removed from their life, this feels that for a lot of you, your twin is starting to kind of release a lot of that blame, a lot of that resistance. They're starting to kind of trust in the process. Maybe some have been carried through a bit of darkness through divine intervention. It has opened their eyes to spirit, to something greater than themselves at work in their life, where they are starting to, kind of battle with themselves in this process of sort of trusting the stage that they find themselves in their life at this point in time. Everything that has happened with you up to this point is starting to take on a different meaning. That's starting to crystallize kind of deep in the core level, deep within the soul. It feels to be something with all of this kind of, I'm drawn to the red in both of these cards right here, that this is something that is taking root deep within. It's yet to kind of manifest in terms of this cognizant sort of understanding, again, of like the greater purpose or implication or opportunity of a twin flame dynamic. They may still be in a lot of kind of like resistance, focusing just on endings and conclusions in the situation with you in a conscious 3D sense. But this is almost with this kind of the blues and the indigos and the purples of this trust card. This really speaks to those higher chakras and kind of making their way through. Again, sort of space that is created, endings that have been created by the universe. Maybe for some, that your twin has really become aware of things that are no longer serving them, and they're starting to take those kind of baby steps in the direction of taking personal responsibility, cleaning up their act, cleaning up their life in some way. It's allowing that light of the higher self, kind of that place where you are already in union with one another, in those higher realms, in the 5D. It's allowing that light to kind of seep through, to saturate them on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. And it's crystallizing a new truth deep within the core of who they are, that in time and as they progress further along this journey, which the timing of that definitely is a matter of free will. Some people can stay kind of stuck in those very basic levels, those basic steps of a twin flame journey for years, for decades, possibly even an entire lifetime. It's a gift that is given, but we all have the choice to accept or reject that. But it really feels that for a lot of you, they're kind of at this precipice of, creating some kind of difference within themselves, change within themselves, which then has the ability to kind of rise from those lower chakras and sort of activate the solar plexus in a more profound way. Open up that heart-centered awareness that can then rise into speaking personal truth, taking what comes through, divine inspiration, through kind of communion with the higher self and with their own kind of intuitive knowing, bringing that forth into, aligned action for themselves in all ways. So it almost feels like this is really bringing me the energy of kind of tower moments that may have been happening. So sand castles, or things which are kind of built on a rocky foundation, having been toppled away or moved away from. And then it's also that Three of Pentacles energy, kind of rebuilding, going back to the start, laying a new foundation for oneself, which is a crucial kind of place to start. Again, you may be further ahead along this journey. You may have gone through this process already. So this can be a little bit frustrating to hear that maybe after so much time or, so much resistance that they're just kind of getting on board with the process, maybe even being like forced into it. It's bringing to mind the analogy of somebody who's almost, at a talent show, for example, and they're kind of standing in the wings, and it's their turn to go out on stage to give it all they've got. And they're resisting, and someone just kind of comes up behind and sort of pushes them through and says, go, it's time. You can't wait any longer. So for a lot of you, this can really be the divine kind of stepping in and pushing your twin forth into this stage, into this place where they're feeling very exposed. They have no choice but to kind of look at these core layers of who they are and how they've been moving through the world, confront some difficult truths that are not always easy to see, as well as the true colors of other people, and coming into a greater sort of sense of what's in alignment truly, vibrationally, energetically, and in all ways with the best version of self, and how they conceptualize that, even kind of beyond that understanding, making room within themselves for the impossible, the unimaginable, and taking those first baby steps into the direction of reaching for that, trying to cultivate that within themselves, trying to bring themselves closer to a different kind of destiny or experience than they've had up to this point in time. Again, it feels like there's a disconnect, though, between kind of like the conscious self and the higher self. They're almost kind of just going through these motions or finding themselves kind of turned around in these different sort of circumstances and positions where it's like, okay, now what are you going to do? Now you're at this choice point. It may be kind of like crossroads after crossroads period, or something very dramatic, like a major sort of wake-up call, particularly if this is, somebody who has transitioned in their life, into the realm of spirit. This may have really been a reckoning for your twin. This could have been something where, it's calling them to look into their own sort of lifestyles, their own choices, their own values up to this point in time. Even if it was really through, somebody just with kind of natural causes, it was just their time, something that was kind of to be expected or was anticipated. Nevertheless, kind of being in those energies of transition, those death energies, that death and rebirth process, it is having an effect upon your twin at this point in time. They're looking around, they are open and receptive to the energies of change, and really at this major crossroads period that is going to determine kind of the next phase for them. And it feels like for a lot of you, they've started to take steps in a new and different direction. So let me see, I'm going to get into, let me use this deck right here first, and then I'll get into some animal messages. What else do you need to know? Okay, so we have the ancestor, the victim, and searching. So with this energy of the ancestor and the death card, that definitely can talk about, literal transitions that have happened, somebody they have lost in their life, and this has been that opening, that almost pivoting down to rock bottom. They may be in a stage of the grief process as well, where they are kind of like blaming. They're very angry at this point in time. Interesting that we have kind of the victim and the blame card as well. So a little bit of sitting in that, a bit of the pity party as well. It feels like part of this has to do with some kind of wake-up call that they've had, and as they're looking around at their life, regardless of how old they are, there's a sense of feeling that they've wasted some time, or that decisions that they have made have led to kind of roadblocks for themselves, a bit of recognition about how they have been getting in their own way up to this point in time, or not actualizing the most of their potential. And it feels to be something where they're just kind of like feeding on their own sort of like shadow energy at this point in time, really sort of going full force into that dark night of the soul energy, which is the place that change occurs. It is from that kind of cosmic womb, from that primordial void, that the light within us is reborn. Definitely here, this root chakra energy, they're starting from ground zero. They're starting from scratch. It's this idea here with this barren tree as well. Something where they may be dealing with kind of like family issues, generational issues, things with their upbringing, things with like inner child wounds, abandonment issues as well. And kind of in tandem with this idea of, like literally losing somebody, or this can even just be a falling out. This can be difficulties. These can be, family members that are not very supportive of them, friends who have betrayed them, other romantic partnerships they have been in that, they were heavily invested. They were building something with this individual only to have that fall apart. And that they're kind of propelled back into this energy of, having to start again, having to pick up the pieces, having to really look at themselves and see where was their trust misplaced. What were some of these maybe toxic or low vibrational connections that they were feeding so much into, giving so much precedence to, that in the end did not serve them, maybe took more than they gave in return. So with this idea of searching, it kind of ties in for me with this trust here, that they're getting a lot of signs right now from their higher self and from their spirit teams, maybe even, other passed on loved ones or ancestors, kind of feeling this cloak of protection, feeling this warmth, feeling this guidance, maybe not able to sort of consciously perceive that. For a lot of you, your twin is really, some psychic gifts are being activated, maybe even mediumship abilities. This can be something that is almost a crossroad for them as well, especially if they have lost someone, maybe even someone that they lost a while ago is appearing to them in dreams, is bringing them signs. They're feeling this person energetically, getting all these different kind of tactile reminders of them, all the clear senses really just activated at this point in time, that it could be very overwhelming for your twin. And yet at the same time, it provides a sense of comfort at what might be a very kind of dark or lonely period for themselves. And the signs that they're getting, it is causing them to kind of search for something else, search for a way out, search for something more than what they've been experiencing up to this point in time, or what the current vibration is of their environment, or what's going on within them. So it almost is bringing to mind the idea of somebody who's kind of like feeling their way through the darkness. This is uncharted territory for your twin. A lot of things that they had been kind of avoiding. It almost feels like their shadow manifesting in strange guises for them. It's kind of these themes or archetypes of maybe control issues, or ways in which they were too judgmental, linear with their thinking, putting too much priority on appearances and the mundane at kind of the expense of the emotional and the spiritual bodies, that sense of wellness for themselves, maybe even not taking care of their physical health, lifestyle choices that had led to, a less than vibrant experience here in the material world on all ways. The word spiritual sickness is coming in as well. So a lot of purging that may be going on at this point in time. And it almost feels that if they're having any kind of like illnesses, or, just a lot of crying, a lot of despair, a lot of depression that might be coming up, it feels that they may have searched for sort of like mundane remedies or causes for these things, coping mechanisms that they had once leaned upon or brought into their world, into their reality, to kind of dull some of this energy down. These things are no longer working. They're having to look outside the box. They're having to search in a new and kind of different way to create a sense of wellness for themselves. They may be starting to open their mind and their perception to the idea of dis-ease as kind of a, physical ailments often tying into the idea of something, some kind of void or deficiency on the spiritual level. So various bits of information that are coming in for them. Again, it doesn't feel to be something, there's still that energy of the disconnect, where what's coming in as far as this higher awareness, this intuition, it's making its way down into conscious reality. It's kind of like rooting in the physical vessel and the 3D version of this person. But they're not quite, in line with themselves. Everything's not quite on the same page, but there is progress being made outside of a previous kind of comfort zone or way of dealing with things. So I'm going to get a couple of these animal cards now and see what else you need to know. Okay, so we have Swan Spirit, time for a deep dive. Fox Spirit, think on your feet. And White Raven Spirit, trust in the magic. So the Swan Spirit definitely can be that confirmation of that twin flame sign for some of you. And again, this idea of the deep dive, that watery energy, going deep into that shadow, deep into those untapped emotions. If something else outside of themselves, maybe the loss of a loved one, has triggered kind of a grief, a purging, it almost feels that the tears they're crying at this point in time go beyond just that, material relationship being altered or kind of lost in some way. If this is like a job that they have lost, some kind of a living situation which has changed, some kind of a relationship which has fallen apart, a falling out which they've had, other difficulties they're having in the material world, it's almost the grief of that is kind of like leading them deeper and deeper into self. And the sorrow and kind of, it almost feels to be kind of connecting the dots, putting different pieces together in some manner about similar themes and archetypes, unprocessed grief that they've just been holding within themselves that has kind of kept them sort of restricted down into, living purely from the lower chakras, living a very fear-based existence, being very disconnected from that heart space. And so for a lot of you, there can be, this purging that is kind of opening the floodgates of that heart chakra. Like they just can't stop crying. They just can't kind of shake this sort of despair that they are in. They just can't, seem to pick themselves back up. Remedies that had previously kind of worked to dull or numb these things out. It's almost like something, again, that idea of floodgates, these have been open. There's no closing that again. A lot of this with the idea of the white raven spirit, this is higher self, this is, divine intervention definitely taking place for your twin flame at this point in time. And it feels, again, to sort of tie into something with your personal journey. You've elevated and progressed to a certain level to where, because of sort of the connection between the two of you, energetically speaking, the stakes are higher for your twin right now. The universe is kind of letting them know that you've had this window of opportunity to, by accordance with your free will, sort of choose to embark on this journey of self-discovery and ascension, and delays that you have put in place, ways in which you have avoided doing this. It's almost like they're just being carried along this current to some kind of new level, to some kind of new vibration along with you, in a sense. And because they haven't done that kind of legwork, that preparation work, they haven't laid that foundation. It may be very intense for them. The turbulence of all of this. Motion sickness is something that's really coming to mind as well. So they may be, again, kind of like physical dis-ease, physical kind of illness or ailment, feeling a bit nauseous, almost, like they're standing up too fast, feeling a bit dizzy often. And it's this energy of kind of their vibration is raising, in a sense, by virtue of the fact that, you're both kind of connected with one another energetically. And through this kind of like shift, through this kind of, being really set off kilter, in a sense, in a lot of ways, through, just energies or even other kind of factors that are happening in their life. It's really a call to action to create some balance for themselves, rather than just kind of taking a passive role in that sense up to this point in time, and leaning into very fear-based energies. This idea of the fox spirit also really is talking about a lot of bargaining that may be going on at this point in time as kind of like a stage of grief. So again, another confirmation that even if this isn't like a person who has, transitioned into spirit, this may just be, kind of a phase of their life that is coming to an end. It's coming to a conclusion. Maybe they're getting older. People around them are kind of moving on in their life in various ways. Things that once resonated, there's this thirst for more. There's a hunger for more. And so it's a process of having to kind of mourn the version of themselves that they were accustomed to, that they were embodying, as they are stepping into this new vibration within themselves. And it's something also that's bringing to mind kind of like fear-based energies. So very nervous about this process that's happening to them. This may be nothing new though for your twin. They could have been very fearful to begin with. A lot of like inner child wounding within themselves that may have led to them running from you in the intensity of the connection before. And it's almost like, again, that idea of kind of the person being pushed on stage at the talent show by spirit. It's time to confront these things. It's time to address these things, that there's no longer the ability to kind of just project outward, keep that gaze outward, and kind of avoid looking within. And with that, it's almost like what's being mirrored to them. It's like funhouse mirrors. There's a lot of distortion. It's very difficult for them to tell, what to trust, what's genuine, what's real, what's the illusion. Things are being unmasked for them within other people and within themselves right now. And so again, it's just this kind of like dizziness, this nausea at this point in time of just a lot of transitional energies, a lot of things that are beyond their comprehension. But because of that, that's almost that invitation for them to kind of like use that intellect, to think on their feet, to search, you know, to seek answers, to think outside of the box. This is where that research begins. This is where those little kind of breadcrumbs from spirit or things from their ancestors or higher self, you know, by way of videos on YouTube, information, you know, even just like memes or articles, just things that really, little buzzwords and things that really kind of get their attention and cause them to start to question. This is where all of that comes in, where the previous way of kind of doing and being and thinking, it is not sufficient for what's happening right now. And so your twin is at this kind of opportunity to expand the language of the heart, the language by which they define themselves. They define their purpose, they define, you know, relationships, people in their lives as well. But again, free will's a factor. They can continue to kind of move forth with blinders on, or really sort of take this opportunity to expand and try something different as a coping mechanism, leaning into healing as opposed to, you know, another cycle or another phase of kind of stuffing and suppressing. So I'm going to get one from this deck, and then I'll get a few messages from their higher self just to close out this reading for you. And then I'll get some initials, of course, too. Okay, and we've got illusion. Yeah, so again, that reference to the funhouse mirrors, not really being sure kind of which way is up at this point in time, not really being sure kind of what to trust within themselves, you know, a way in which they had been kind of moving linearly through life at this point in time. There are now all of these different options. There is all this different awareness of self-imposed obstacles, things that they were invested in that were just kind of sapping their life force energy, that were kind of limiting them in some way. This is also the expansion of potential and opportunity. So as much as they're really kind of starting from the bottom and needing to work their way up, as much as it may feel a lot of weight and pressure and like the walls are closing in and things are disappearing from their life, it's really an expansion into more options, more opportunity, more different possible scenarios and outcomes than were available to them before. So it feels to be definitely for a lot of you, your twin is in this process of things being removed, them really feeling this urge, the urge to purge, you know, the urge to kind of clear things out, in order to prepare themselves to better be able to perceive truth versus illusion, to better be able to perceive how kind of their own vibration, their own mindset, their own unhealed wounds, their own actions and choices up to this point in time have led to a series of results, kind of a process of humbling that is leading them to a place of gratitude, so that, you know, armed with that abundance within, they are able to make different kind of choices, and to kind of reach for something higher than what they had been sustaining and kind of sufficing themselves with up to this point in time. So kind of a crucial sort of opening, a baby step, you know, in a direction. And this may come, you know, this may be followed with kind of a period of sort of trial and error for them, different pathways that they may be going down, their curiosity being kind of piqued by different things that come through, these little breadcrumbs from their higher self, you know, things that algorithms suggest, things they overhear, a lot of synchronicities, a lot happening with the telepathy, you know, the communication, again, all of this kind of like blue and purple and violet. This is, you know, the higher self communicating. This is spirit communicating. These are ancestors communicating. A lot of psychic gifts that are coming online, and through this period of overwhelm, kind of being thrust into this period of all this different input coming in from many directions, from within and from without. It's definitely the opportunity, you know, for your twin flame to kind of get on board in a more profound way with their own kind of personal awakening journey and their ascension journey. And in a sense, for a lot of you, it almost feels like your twin has kind of ascended on some level with you, not that you've had to do the work for them, but just as a byproduct of what you've done on yourself, they now find themselves able to kind of tap into and access a different type of frequency, a different type of experience than they had known of before, than they had known was possible, or that they had desired for themselves. And now it's a matter of kind of like what to do with that, a process of trying to sort of decipher, learn the language of this new dimension they find themselves in, and kind of how to use that for their highest good moving forward. So I'm going to get a couple messages from their higher self and see what does your twin flame want you to know right now. Okay. So we have accelerated movement, communications, and action. Yeah, so definitely feeling a bit of that nausea and dizziness from, their vibration kind of raising as a byproduct of being connected to you energetically speaking. Things are really speeding up in their life. And that may be manifesting first and foremost as a lot of things coming to an end, a lot of closures, a lot of roads that have come to their completion. And with that energy of closure is definitely the opening for something new. And we also have old karmic patterns are ending. So again, relationships in various forms are dissolving or needing to be reimagined, or your twin is starting to really understand the importance of reimagining, closing out some of these chapters of their life. This can talk about, lifestyle choices, jobs, thought patterns, unhealed wounds, coping mechanisms, a tendency toward reaction versus response, or third party in the forms of romantic, platonic, familial, professional relationships, just any combination of these things, whatever resonates for your situation. It feels like a little bit of all these things. Nothing is untouched by this energy of velocity in your twin's life at this point in time. It's almost like tower after tower moment. Big ways, little ways, things within themselves, things within how they're feeling, how they're perceiving, how they're moving through the world. So a very exciting time of change, but it's almost feeling like a tilt-a-whirl, in an amusement park where it's just, there's so much happening. There's so much, new information to take in. There's so much energy that's just sort of coursing through them that they're feeling a bit overwhelmed, and kind of, once that ride stops, once they come to that point of sort of that storminess being over, it definitely will take some time to kind of like get out of that wobbly energy to sort of get their bearings in this new environment. But they're trying to kind of like hold on as much as they can through this process. They also say, I'm breaking free of my past. So again, another confirmation of cycles ending, tendencies ending, lifestyle changes ending. For a lot of you, your twin has had some kind of a wake-up call. And it feels to be something of a combination of that has been sparked through work you've been doing on yourself, and also through divine intervention, that certain things that they had not relinquished up to this point in time are being taken from them. Certain kind of other events that are happening in their life that have really opened their eyes to a new perspective, to calling into question their previous kind of way of being and doing and moving through the world. So breakthrough energy is here. It's, they're pushing, they keep, as much as they may be resisting, they're nevertheless being kind of propelled to this new stage, this new chapter of their life. So an exciting time of change, but again, needing to kind of start from the ground up, rebuild some kind of foundation within themselves. But it feels like for a lot of you, that first step has been taken of their own free will, of their own volition, or spirit has kind of pushed them into it. Like, okay, you're in your new beginning now. Things are not going to be the same. It is the time of change is here. The time of procrastination is over. And then kind of what they do with that opportunity, where they go and grow and build from there is, again, a matter of free will, a lot of choices and options available to them. So only time will tell kind of what road and path that they decide to take. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got S, Y, E, V, P, and F. So hold this up if you want to screenshot them. Take a look at them for a minute. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. That definitely helps the reading to reach others who might resonate with these messages, and it helps my channel to grow. So I do appreciate that as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Rose Quartz. So this is just going to be kind of a free form reading. I'm going to be looking into, kind of what shadows are coming up for your twin flame right now, any victories they may have had, just where they are at on their spiritual awakening and ascension journey. So I'm going to start with this deck right here. See what are some of these themes or archetypes that they're confronting even. Okay, we have blame. I accept responsibility for my well-being. This card came up in group 1, so if you felt drawn to watch that group, you may want to do so after this one. Also have peace. I am a being of love and I release all negative energy. Pride. I love myself and I see myself in everyone. So there's a major theme here of some self-forgiveness work that your twin flame may be focused on at this point in time, concentrating on. It's almost bringing to mind the idea of making peace with people. So these could be long time bridges that they had burned, maybe reaching out to make amends. They may even be contemplating reaching out and making amends to you at this point in time. Some kind of energy of resistance where they had been used to kind of projecting blame. The tables have turned and it feels like they are actively engaged in the work of taking responsibility, forgiving themselves first and foremost in order to create the vibration within of being able to be forgiven by others. It's also bringing to mind a lot of work that they may be doing as far as the inner child is concerned, healing kind of like family wounds, abandonment wounds, any kind of issues that they had with their mother, with their father, with siblings, with feeling even kind of like misunderstood or judged in a certain way. The idea of pride really ties into being their own cheerleader, really marching to the beat of their own drum, breaking away from circumstances that don't serve their highest good. This can also talk about discernment at this point in time, about, friendships, things, like social media, different things that they've been taking in, that they've been absorbing, that they've been really affected by up to this point in time, that have eroded in some way their peace, their sense of peace, have maybe made them feel not good enough, any ways in which they've been kind of like comparing themselves to other people, living a life that was kind of, keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with appearances, judging themselves by other people's standard or measure of success, things that, because of maybe the unique nature of who they are, gifts that they have, maybe they're very artistically inclined and they come from a family of people that are just very kind of logical, practical, scientific minded, that didn't really understand kind of the sensitivity, the artistry within your twin flame, where they had stuffed or suppressed these gifts down, maybe gone down a career path that others had really determined was, kind of the measure of success, what they should be doing with their life, that may have led to, just a feeling of deep dissatisfaction, not feeling fulfilled, a sense of having some kind of higher calling, and that being very elusive in terms of things that they were participating with previously. This can talk about, even situations where maybe they were leaning into addiction, for example, trying to kind of like numb or suppress this sense of their unique individuality and trying to fit into circumstances, rooms, lifestyles, situations that were never meant to be a good fit for them. This is the energy of your twin definitely kind of tossing away all of those masks, stepping into more of their personal autonomy, maybe being a little more assertive, no longer willing to kind of play small with their life, taking personal responsibility for kind of where they find themselves at this stage based on choices that they've made, rather than kind of like holding out hope for other people to change, or just kind of suffering in silence, kind of living in quiet desperation. This is the energy of choosing peace over conflict, prioritizing that sense of personal well-being over what others define that as, how others build and craft that for themselves. A lot of questioning that it feels like is going on. The word pilgrimage is also coming to mind. So maybe for some of you, your twin flame is starting to explore different kind of spiritual practices, meditation, different philosophies, different theologies. They're starting to really look into chakras. Maybe they're getting into yoga. For some, they're taking like literal spiritual pilgrimages, to sacred sites, maybe seeking kind of alternative medicines as a way for healing. Shamanic journey work is factoring in with this. Shamanic healing. If this is somebody from kind of like a Western tradition, they may be seeking out almost like Eastern medicine, acupuncture, acupressure, herbal remedies, Ayurvedic medicine, just different kind of things that are outside of the box of what their family, what their community, what a previous version of them had really leaned upon as far as, the right way to be, the right way to do, what kind of normal is, what homeostasis is, what kind of that balance within is and should look like. And it feels to be something with this idea of peace here and pride. These are not like abrupt changes. This is not the energy of somebody who's trying to create change through force, but it's almost through surrender and release. It feels for a lot of you that if your twin had been very, very much kind of conflicted within themselves, not wanting to disappoint others, kind of a people pleaser, again, kind of leaning into the pressure maybe of societal pressure, family pressure, and expectations, someone who is very image driven, very image conscious. It's almost the idea and the value they're placing upon that image is changing. There are different aspects that they're trying to bring into that or to incorporate into who they are. It feels like change within themselves, which may be resulting in kind of like a glow up. And it's almost something it feels to be where rather than having to kind of like push people away by standing in their own authenticity, that on some level, which is not for them, which is not that kind of resonance, which is not serve their highest good, it's just kind of naturally falling away. And it's very surprising, it feels like, just how at peace your twin is feeling by these subtle changes that they're making. Maybe these are even changes in like diet and lifestyle, cleaning up from addictions even, and just kind of getting through that storminess, the worst being over, something they had avoided kind of changing or taking personal ownership for up to this point in time. And they're starting to really feel good within themselves. New things that they are ingesting, it feels for a lot of you by way of kind of like spiritual teachings or practices, expanding their mind, kind of moving on from a particular sort of like friend circle or a particular kind of way of looking at the world, activities that they were doing, how they were kind of filling their time, spending more time in quiet reflection, more time trying to kind of build rather than tear down in terms of, things that they're taking in. So they may be listening to a lot of like motivational videos, starting to incorporate mantras into their daily life, into their practice. For a lot of you, it feels like they're going on some kind of like a health kick or some kind of a health regimen, something new that they're bringing into their life, into their reality, and they're starting to feel different. They're starting to look better. And it feels like people even around them are receiving them in more of a peaceful energy. And it's this motivation for them to continue down this path, to continue to cement in these new practices in different ways that kind of the changes within are manifesting in subtle but noticeable ways for them in terms of what they are experiencing in the world around them and with other people around them. So I'm going to get some cards from this deck and see what else is going on right now with your twin as far as their ascension journey, their spiritual awakening. Where are they at with all of that? Okay, we have the Phoenix, Corridor, and Trapped. So with this Trapped card and the Phoenix, this is definitely talking about somebody who is liberating themselves from patterns in their life, from lifestyle habits, just the vibration of this energy. It's a sense of feeling very personally accomplished, really good for maybe having, put their foot down about something, had some kind of a difficult conversation, finally let that toxic habit or, belief system or relationship in whatever way that manifests for them, finally, asserting themselves and just kind of disconnecting from that. And it's like a breath of fresh air. And it took almost just the introduction of something new or the discontinuation of something or a series of somethings that were, kind of low vibrational or unhealthy for them in some manner, didn't fit kind of the full alignment of who they are inside as an individual, but it may have just been trying to almost like chameleon to people around them, fit in with people around them in some manner, that as they've taken these small steps, for some of you, this almost feels to be kind of like a class that they may be taking as well, maybe something that they're putting out there by way of, maybe they've started a podcast or a blog, or, they're learning, they're expanding, they maybe, have joined a new community in some way. It's a different kind of energy that they're interacting with and that they're, exchanging ideas with. And it's so refreshing that it is making them recognize how playing small with their life up to this point in time, or whatever they've kind of been participating with, dealing with up to this point in time, it was getting them nowhere with this energy of the corridor here. And they've almost, it's like the windows have been opened, a new way has been shown, a new path has been illuminated. Your twin is walking a new path, or is, in the energy of curiosity, is seeking out a new way to define themselves, a new way to structure their life, a new coping mechanism, healthier habits, healthier belief systems, healthier vibrations, choosing their own company versus being surrounded, by people who just kind of keep them at a dense vibration, people who themselves are operating out of very fear-based programming, people who themselves are not questioning, but are just kind of fitting into some sort of a paradigm that does not resonate with your twin on a soul level. In a lot of ways, it feels that they have really come into this state of alignment with their higher purpose, with some kind of higher calling, some kind of like a hunger for more. And rather than just sort of like sitting trapped and feeling very kind of defeated and sort of like, woe is me, it's out of reach, sitting in the woulda, coulda, shoulda, any kind of energy of blame that they may have been in previously, there's this energy of transcending all of that, taking action, letting themselves off the hook, forgiving themselves for the choices that they have made that have kind of like kept them trapped or have led to this energy of wherever it is that they are finding themselves right now. They're seeking out a new way. They're finding a new way. They are registering kind of with what resonates with them as an individual, caring less, being less concerned with kind of how other people are viewing this, what other people around them are doing. And they're starting to really prioritize, what do they want? What resonates with their view of success, their view of personal happiness? What's a new path that has been calling to them that they have the present ability to kind of forge a way toward, shortcut toward, kind of bushwhack their way over into, this kind of new leg of their own personal journey, out of a lot of energy of chaos, out of kind of these karmic and repetitive sort of like loops and cycles, trapped in a lot of distortion. This is the energy of self-liberation. And this may, have been a very difficult process, a very kind of heart-wrenching process to kind of stand up to people, to express themselves, to break away, to be willing to, transmute what their view of success was, what their view of certain people was up to this point in time, a willingness to, kind of the idea of like burning bridges. So maybe, reforging some of the bonds that because of their, previous tendencies or just a limited kind of vibration that they were at, or, just whatever those peculiarities were, trying to reforge those healthy connections or to make amends where possible. But this is also with this idea of Phoenix, this is a willingness to burn bridges with people, things, ideas, versions of themselves that do not serve that highest good. If they had been very fearful of that before, fearful of disappointing others, this is the energy of spreading their wings and flying in a new direction. So for a lot of you, you may almost sense, if you've been picking up, energetically on kind of where your twin flame has been at, up to this point in their personal journey, you may really be sensing kind of a lightness within them, something that, is just, it may also kind of help you to decipher their energy from yours. You may have kind of taken for granted kind of what's mine and what's this other person's. And now that there's almost this lightness that you might be feeling, kind of like you wake up one day, or you come out of a meditation session, or, some kind of like a workout session, or you reach some stage in your own personal journey where you're like, I feel so much better. And it's not just because of what I've been doing within myself, but it helps you to really understand that energetic cord between you and your twin flame, that it feels like this kind of breakthrough energy for them, it's transferred to you. This is something as well that it's almost kind of any ideas or any kind of fears that had really caused them to sort of pivot away from you, be very linear or very closed off to this connection in the past. They're definitely in this energy of kind of reimagining that, breaking free from that in some manner, seeing you from a different lens. Maybe this is something where you were more of a spiritual person, you were more free-spirited, they could have been more kind of practical or old-fashioned in some way. It was kind of like a yin-yang situation, and opposites attract, and there may have just been something within them, maybe things that were directly said by people in their reality, judging you, judging the connection, that caused them to, kind of push you away in some manner, or like a fear of what would people think? How will this fit in? How, what would this look like if we were together out in the light of day? It feels like for a lot of you, they're moving beyond that. They're seeing how that was so limited, how it was so rigid, how it was really, kind of an assessment that was really based on fear, off of the fear of what you were really triggering and beckoning them toward, which is, the idea of self-liberation. This doesn't mean that they have to give up their practical ways and become, like a free spirit on the wind, but it was something where they were just too rigid, too linear in their kind of thinking or their way of being and doing. They were too almost like dimming their own light to sort of fit in with others, kind of trapping this light of potential within them. And there's this energy of self-liberation, which is allowing them to even conceive of you in this connection in a more broad sense, which definitely can add in to that element for a lot of you, where they are considering kind of making that amends. They want to kind of reconstruct the bridge that has been decimated up to this point in time, a bridge that they may have burned perhaps very unfairly between the two of you. And so there's kind of effort within themselves to construct this new vibration. It feels like for themselves, with this idea of I love myself, they're making these changes for them. And as kind of like the byproduct of that, it's freeing up their perception to be able to see you and to understand this connection in a new way. And whether they come forth, when they come forth, what that will look like, that's kind of, that's to be determined in the future. That's a matter of free will. But for a lot of you, they're holding the energy of this connection. They're holding the energy of themselves differently, which could most likely be translated to you in some form or fashion by way of how you are receiving or perceiving them as well. So I'm going to get a couple of these animal cards to dig a little bit deeper into this. Okay, we have Moth Spirit, surrender now. Rhino Spirit, overcome any obstacle. Giraffe Spirit, see the big picture. Yeah, so with this energy of giraffe, in the long neck right there, this is that confirmation that they are actively participating, taking steps in the direction of their personal ascension, ascending beyond kind of these limited or trapped views, ideas, vibrations, connections, lifestyles, habits, just any kind of combination of those factors that had really been sort of holding them down from the actualization of their own personal potential up to this point in time. They're seeing things, their life, the people around them, kind of the vibration that they hold within, the attitude that they hold within, and kind of how that calls in certain experiences or kind of perpetuates certain things for them. And rather than kind of just sitting in the energy of blame and woe is me, this is definitely an indication for a lot of you that, you know, your twin with this rhino spirit energy, they're charging forth, they're bursting through obstacles, self-imposed obstacles feel to be the biggest factor here. A lot of kind of this mental energy with this moth spirit, you know, the moth to the flame, kind of like running from their own sort of personal darkness or things that were actually light qualities about them, gifts, attributes, things they had felt shame about, things that people around them didn't understand that they had kind of just stuffed down or suppressed. They're bringing that out into the light. They're not really caring who is bothered by that. They're not really, you know, caring if this fits in with other people's perception of how they should be in the world. This is, you know, turning that heart light on, turning that light of authenticity on in a more profound manner, and that it's definitely creating some beautiful responses and experiences for them. It's an energy of empowerment. It's an energy of personal growth, of kind of raising that self-esteem, raising that energy in the practice of self-love by being very discerning at this point in time as far as what they're letting in, being a lot more self-protective, you know, inventorying kind of what is contributing and kind of adding to the measure of my happiness. What are reciprocal relationships that make me feel good, that are healthy, that are uplifting? Feeding more into those things, seeking out and cultivating relationships and things of that nature, and kind of limiting the time that they invest in or the power that they are giving over to things that are kind of the opposite of that. So I'm going to get one of these oracle cards, and then I'll get some messages from your twin flame's higher self and close it out with some initials. And we have abundance. So that is a beautiful confirmation of starting to take personal responsibility for the life that they have crafted for themselves. Your twin flame is really starting to maybe look into the law of attraction, manifestation. They are starting to create change for themselves by tapping into kind of that higher potential, rising beyond limitations within self, starting to make better choices for themselves, which is, you know, leading them in the direction of being open to receive healthier and more high vibrational and fulfilling experiences in the material sense as well. This isn't just thinking about change. This is making change in the material sense. And it feels to be something as well as far as, you know, like spiritual practices, maybe even with all these kind of like fruits and vegetables here at the bottom of this card, something to do with like what they're eating, kind of like a fitness routine, maybe even like addictions or, you know, things that were very kind of toxic and low vibrational, clearing those out of their life, choosing better for themselves, demanding better for themselves, becoming very serious about this opportunity to raise their vibration, to move in the direction of personal joy as well, you know, ascending beyond kind of those stuck or limited vibrations or experiences or things that they were really participating with. And it's this, you know, taking control in a very sort of physical and material sense to make changes, to consciously choose not to focus on lack, but on possibility and potential and joy, to make the most of whatever circumstances they find themselves in, to use the tools that they have available to them, to craft a different kind of existence for them, which is actively helping your twin to raise their vibration. They are seeing the effects, starting to see the effects of this shift within themselves in the material reality, which it feels for a lot of you is motivation for them to continue down this new path, kind of reaching for something different for themselves that may have taken a while to kind of get to this point. They may have been very resistant. A lot of these could have been deeply entrenched kind of cycles, again, kind of like difficult conversations that they needed to have, a lot of kind of fear that they needed to sort of break through in order to liberate themselves, in order to actualize themselves, in order to, take more control over their own life. But for a lot of you, it's, they're starting to really kind of reap the rewards of that, which is giving them encouragement to continue on that path of personal growth and ascension. So let's see, what do they want you to know from their higher self right now? Okay, and they say, I'm not who I used to be. So again, a lot of change for your twin flame, a lot of evolution, a lot of development, a lot of personal growth, a lot of epiphanies that if they had been kind of avoiding these shadows, avoiding transformation, they have leaned into it very happily, very eagerly. It feels like somebody who's very curious. They just want to learn more, they want to know more, they want more of this good feeling that they're cultivating for themselves. And also that idea of like cultivating that goodness for themselves can definitely be a contrast to a vibration that they were in previously, where they may have really kind of looked outward for that sense of fulfillment, seeking to kind of please others, or feeling that personal sense of contentment was contingent on how others perceive them, others' sense of approval. This is somebody who's, really taking their power back from a lot of things, taking personal responsibility, reaching towards some horizon or potential that resonates with them, as opposed to kind of how that fits into what other people around them are doing or what others have expected of them previously. And they also say, I am more spiritual because of you. So that was coming through with that idea of one of you being more spiritual, the other one more of like a practical, logical, or traditional person. It feels that your twin flame has definitely eased out of some prohibitive energy that had maybe kept them very grounded in material and practical things. And they're starting to expand their mind. They're starting to be curious about, to believe in and be very mindful of things like energy and vibration, maybe opening up to new spiritual practices, new spiritual ideas, the idea even of opening their mind to kind of the greater implication of this connection, who you are to them, who they are as a soul, kind of the idea of a spirit having a human experience as well. And they also say, my beliefs are changing. So another confirmation of expansion, growth. This is not the person that you were used to dealing with before. They have been deeply affected by this connection, as you have. And this is somebody who is stepping into a season of growth and expansion, trying to, kind of make positive changes for themselves rather than continuing to kind of like ruminate or stay very limited in certain cycles, versions of themselves, versions of who other people expected them to be that may have been very long standing, or that were even kind of a wedge or an obstacle between the two of you in the past. They're transcending a lot of that, growing, changing, expanding in a very positive and refreshing way. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got Z, X, K, Y, D, and U. Hold those up if you want to take a look at those for a minute or screenshot them. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. When you do that, it helps the algorithm to pass this video along to others who might resonate with these messages, and it helps my channel to grow as well, so I deeply appreciate that. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the Amethyst. So this is going to be kind of a free-form reading. I'm going to start with this deck right here and just look into some of the shadows that your twin flame might be dealing with, some of the victories that they've had, archetypes that they are coming to terms with or redefining at this current stage of their journey. So we have imagination. I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. Service. I feel good when I can help others. And envy. I am the same as everybody, but with different challenges. So these energies are really bringing to mind the idea of like a call to action. Your twin flame could be in this energy of having done some kind of growth in some manner, growing beyond like a difficult circumstance. This can be something that they were really struggling to release in their life. Addictions, patterns, cycles that they have come through. It's bringing to mind the idea of almost like a humbling that has taken place, some kind of a dark night of the soul energy that they have been in. They have come out the other side of that. They, were standing in this energy of elation, maybe some kind of small victory, something that was very difficult to overcome, very difficult to understand and to comprehend. And now that that energy of, this vibration, this triumph, this elation, they've kind of settled into that, they've acclimated into that, they're starting to really question how they can use their personal experiences, the gifts which have been activated, kind of their life experience in general, to help others. They may be looking outward to, maybe spiritual teachers, people that have achieved something that they have always wanted to do. And rather than just sitting there kind of in a lack mentality, looking from afar and saying, I wish, if only, wouldn't it be nice? This is the energy of starting to make those plans and preparations to, create something of that for themselves. This is thinking outside of the box energy right here. Trying to help others that are in a similar position of need, or trying to almost conceptualize, even if they're still in that energy of kind of the dark night of the soul at this point in time, trying to make sense of everything, trying to kind of pick up the pieces of their life in some manner. It's almost like there's this quiet voice within that is encouraging them to persevere, because this struggle will make sense in the large kind of the large scheme of things for themselves. That there's almost like a bigger purpose or plan in place that is unfolding, a choreography that they cannot yet comprehend, and yet they are being sort of propelled along this. It's bringing to mind the idea of kind of like a machine that has been turned on, that has been activated through your twin flame connection. Heart chakra activation with this green energy here of service, and this idea of any kind of resistance, blame, or feeling that this was some kind of like a curse or a very oppressive energy, to be on the twin flame path. Almost like how some people say, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. That may have been the mindset that they were in previously, but this is almost like it is a softened stance, and they're starting to kind of re-envision how they are conceiving of this journey, even if they're not resonating with the idea of being a twin flame, being, on this path or on this journey. It's just this process of things that have unfolded for them in the aftermath of having come in contact with you, that if they had been very resentful about that, a lot of effort that had been placed to stuffing down and suppressing and being very resentful, being very, envious of people who were kind of able to sort of sleepwalk through life, the idea of kind of once you're awakened, you can never fully go back to sleep. And they may have been in a stage of just almost wishing that they hadn't met you, wishing that this had never happened to them, kind of having a pity party. That has all sort of changed and transitioned, and they're more in this energy of kind of sitting quietly in this, understanding and starting to kind of get these glimmers and these glimpses with imagination, expanding that perspective that there may be something larger at play here than just kind of like bad karma coming back to call. Something larger at play here than just kind of, this energy of sort of suffering, that through this personal suffering, through this discomfort, through this process of being kind of activated and expanded in some manner, they may be getting a lot of downloads, a lot of things coming through in dreams, a lot of these glimmers or these glimpses of almost this higher path that they are being called toward, something they are being called to come into alignment with, some way in which this experience might be able to help others. It feels like for a lot of you journaling or taking notes, maybe even making things very creatively, you know, tapping into that imagination as almost, even if they don't consciously understand it, it's kind of a way of documenting this journey. It's like their higher self telling them, this is important. This is not just happenstance. This is not just by chance that this has occurred to you. This is something where, you know, they're starting to become more observant of this process. They're starting to really utilize, beyond just the romantic component of a twin flame experience, is this exchange of this very potent creative energy, which is activated within each of us and is available, you know, to both twins at any point in time to kind of like reimagine or redefine a different kind of life for themselves, you know, create changes. The greatest work of art you can work on is yourself. So it begins with that personal transformation to become that change in the world you wish to experience. And it feels like for a lot of you, your twin flame is starting to, again, almost that idea of like, it's a mechanism in some way, it's an instinct where they're starting to kind of just create something out of this. They're starting to really sort of tap in and use that energy of flow. And through these small kind of acts of creation or just a reimagining and kind of what's taking place, this kind of like mechanism that has been turned on within them, you know, this process of energy kind of flowing and being exchanged between people, even beyond the dynamic with the two of you, it feels like something where they're starting to really understand kind of chords of energy and attachment, and you know, how the exchanges with people create different kind of results in the vibration. This is an energy of being a little more mindful of who they are giving to. If they, you know, were kind of leaning into this energy of maybe being overgiving, or, you know, just very kind of lack of discernment in who they let into their world, who they let into their space, who they let into their emotional body, you know, their physical body, who they're spending time with, what that environment looks like, the life they have crafted and created for themselves. This is the energy of like discerning, reimagining something else, starting to really be able to kind of follow that train of events back to maybe where their bad moods stemmed from, you know, somebody else projecting upon them. So it's an expansion of the mind, an expansion of perceptions at this point in time. And a lot of kind of like note-taking, research. They could be like watching videos, you know, learning. It feels like for some of you, it could be, you know, things relating to concepts about twin flames, but it feels for a lot of you, this may be more like they're starting to really familiarize themselves with energy, with law of attraction, with manifestation, with ascension. They may have even with that heart chakra energy, and, you know, this is like root chakra energy right here. So a lot of kundalini activation and energy back and forth. This kind of violet energy, a lot of headaches that they may be getting, kind of like tingling at the crown chakra, you know, downloads, ascension symptoms, psychic gifts activating. It's almost like they're seeking out answers for that, something outside of the box. And they're starting to really perceive kind of the blessing within this experience, or being less resentful of it and starting to accept it as part of who they are, not something inflicted upon them, but something that their awareness has now been opened, and they are able to conceive of more of who they have always been, but that, you know, prior to kind of meeting you and you know, being kind of activated and turned on by this, you know, twin flame experience, these were parts of themselves, aspects of their energy, gifts within them, creative gifts, psychic gifts, energetic gifts, gifts of manifestation that were inaccessible to them. And rather than kind of, they may at one point in time have started to sort of lean into this for like personal gain, but this is definitely the energy of kind of taking note both of how can these things serve me, and how can this be of service to others? How can my process of understanding and working, you know, with these components, how might this, you know, create some kind of a legacy? How might this be useful to other people I might encounter further down the road? So it's definitely an energy of wanting to start to pay it forward. It feels like they may be leaning into more of an energy of generosity, starting to understand the law of cause and effect. What you give, you receive, being more mindful of their thoughts, being more mindful of their words, kind of leaning into more of quiet, more of introspection, more of observation, feeling into kind of like the subtle energies, you know, feeling beyond perceptions within people and like what is projected upon them, and really being able to kind of sense those currents of fear, being able to sense the wounds within people, tapping in a lot to, you know, like light worker abilities, empath abilities, healer abilities. And it feels like for a lot of you, they're really starting to reimagine their ability to heal themselves and their own life. If they had really looked outward for remedies, they're starting to seek within for that solution, and sort of ways in which it's almost just, it's a very kind of like a quiet and observant energy that I'm feeling in this group. Like for your twin flame, for most of you, this is where your twin flame is at, where they're not passing any judgment on this. They're, you know, if they had been very kind of resistant and had kind of turned a blind eye or been very opinionated, very linear in how they defined you, themselves, the connection, the idea of twin flames, spirituality, you know, just themselves in general and their experience here on this earth plane, they're taking in new information. They're letting that digest. They're thinking about things. They're expanding outside of the box. Their perception and their focus is beyond just the immediate, just beyond kind of like, you know, I and me. And it's leaning into more of this idea of like others, wanting to help, wanting to heal, wanting to be of service, but yet at the same time, understanding that that kind of like comes from within first and foremost. So taking notes, taking in, you know, ideas, kind of working with these energies of creativity, maybe in sort of like artistic endeavors. For some, this could be writing, you know, again, even just kind of like taking notes in their phone, but for others, this could be journaling, poetry, you know, just different kind of things, maybe downloads that they're getting, that they're taking note, things that may have come through that they just sort of discarded in the past, and they're starting to, a part of them says like, there's something here, this is something important, this is not something to just kind of let sort of fly out the window, but like take note of this, kind of like save this for later, this will all add up or make sense further down the road. So I'm going to get into this deck now and see what else you need to know as far as what's going on with your twin flame and their ascension journey, their spiritual awakening at this point. Okay, we've got the doe, the sleepwalker, and the philosopher. So this idea of the doe, this is definitely talking about the beginner's mind, an open-mindedness, an observation with these little eyes that are illuminated right there. You know, a very watchful energy, a very kind of pensive energy that your twin flame is in right now. They're just taking everything in, a bit of overwhelm as well, perhaps even starting to understand some of the gravity and magnitude of thoughts becoming things. They may be manifesting very quickly at this point in time, which could be causing them to kind of retract within themselves, you know, start to be very mindful with sort of what they're putting out, what they're putting forth, the intentions that they're setting as these things are coming into them very quickly. The idea of sleepwalkers ties into this idea of service, you know, wanting to kind of help awaken others, wanting to, you know, understanding that kind of what's taking place with them. The implications are larger than just them as the individual. They may be like finding or seeking out communities of like-minded individuals. But again, with the idea of the doe, it doesn't feel that they're necessarily communicating, you know, on any kind of like a forum, leaving comments on videos. They're just taking it all in. They're just kind of like an audience member to it at this point in time, and yet participating, exchanging, energetically speaking, because of their presence in these areas, in these rooms, in these kind of collectives. You know, and it feels like they're walking in and out of many different rooms. The idea of philosopher, you know, trying different things on for size, maybe, you know, trying out different kind of meditation practices, trying out different manifestation practices, trying out different kind of ideas about ascension, ideas about spirituality, really developing their own personal philosophy, which for this individual may be very unique. They may be kind of a follower or somebody that had really held very strongly to like a tradition. They maybe have been raised in a very strict religious household, a particular philosophy or teaching that, you know, had been kind of the end all be all for them up to this point in time. And they really hadn't questioned anything outside of that. This is the energy of kind of expanding their mind, seeing how that Not that it was anything kind of wrong or bad about it, but that it was just limited. It didn't and does not serve the full potential of who they are recognizing and realizing themselves to be. So this idea with kind of this, this octopus sort of stretching its tentacles, they're reaching far outside of the comfort zone, reaching outside of themselves for inspiration into different kind of areas of teaching and practices that may be quite unusual for them, or people in their kind of social groups and their family and their society, but being very, very quiet about this, just kind of keeping it within. It's the idea also of kind of putting on the shelf, kind of taking note of and saving for later some of these experiences that they've had. This is also creative potential right here. So, what they're documenting, this may have to do with like healing modalities, something that they can't even conceive of at this point in time, where, maybe this is part of like a shared mission, like a joint purpose between the two of you. Whether you do this, in sync with one another in a 3D sense, or just kind of, operating in collusion from that higher realm union that you already share in this moment in time. But it's almost something like a new kind of philosophy, a new teaching, something with each of your unique signature and stamp of your experience on this twin flame journey, on the ascension path, on this spiritual awakening, that they're taking note of things, not really being sure why, but that it further down the road may add up to something that is almost, it's the legacy of this experience. It's the purpose of this experience for the two of you. It's something you're each, again, individually or together as like a 3D unit, meant to kind of convey or to bring forward, to help others, to teach others, to guide others, to assist others. It's kind of the actualization of the purpose for a lot of you of why you have had this twin flame journey, why you are, having this twin flame experience. Above and beyond the element of romance, but like, a higher kind of spiritual calling or, path that is available to the both of you, that it feels like your person is starting, kind of with sleepwalker. They're not exactly, committed to that yet. They're not fully aware of sort of what's happening or what the larger implications are. They're kind of half asleep, half awake. They're sort of operating in this kind of twilight energy where they sort of lean back into old habits, and then they're very much lucid at other points in time. A bit of overwhelm with this as well. And this also brings to mind the idea of kind of walking between worlds. So psychic gifts, mediumship abilities, the perception of energies, again, this awareness of like their ability to self-heal on some manner. An understanding of how what they put forth may kind of heal or even trigger others into their own path of healing, but they're not fully in this place of having an awareness of how to use that, what that means, not really being sure as well, kind of tying back to that imagination card. Is this real? Can this be trusted? Is this all just kind of the subject of illusion or personal delusion, delusions of grandeur? So they're at that crucial stage of questioning right now, questioning their current reality, questioning what they thought they knew, what they thought they believed in, and really opening themselves up to the possibility of kind of something more for themselves and for this journey. So I'm going to get a few of these animal cards to see what else is going on with your twin flame right now. Okay, we've got Antelope Spirit. Life is speeding up. Turkey Spirit, give with gratitude and grace. And Vulture Spirit, nothing is wasted. So these all really tie in very well with the idea of kind of the theme here for you guys in group 3, guys, and that it's this idea of looking at their journey, looking at their personal experience up to this point in time with this twin flame journey as not so much a punishment, but as an opportunity to help themselves, an opportunity to heal, an opportunity to give back, starting to really, give themselves the time and space necessary to heal, to, kind of move forward, to evolve, to really kind of take everything in, to saturate everything, seeking out nourishment of the souls, finding the nourishment in this process, in this journey, in this phase and stage that they are at, in this ascension process. And with the idea of Antelope Spirit, life speeding up, a lot of downloads, a lot of new information. And again, it ties in, you know, with this idea of the doe, very overwhelmed by a lot of this, not really sure kind of what to trust, what to keep, what to let go of. A lot coming in really quickly. A lot unfolding, and your twin flame, they feel to be, you know, if they in the past may have just kind of like run from all of this, they're at least sticking around at this chapter, which is a very kind of like crucial element here. And it really feels to be something, again, with kind of larger themes in mind. There's a desire to help other people rather than just kind of, you know, kind of keeping this gift for themselves, rather than just kind of keeping these experiences for themselves, or just being very kind of like self-minded, self-focused. It's the idea of, you know, you the people, we the people. How can we, the collective, heal? How can this experience benefit all of us, you know, benefit everyone, benefit others? So something that they're trying to create or do or be or become in the interest of kind of stepping up their experience in this lifetime, but also, you know, a lot of focus on giving back. So they may be kinder to other people. They may be more helpful to other people. You know, they may be kind of stretching their imagination to find different ways to create inclusivity for themselves. A lot of research at this point in time as well, you know, tying into that idea of sort of like sitting in communities, not necessarily, you know, saying a whole lot, just kind of taking in and observing, but almost like taking notes to find, you know, what is their kind of role in all of this? What is their niche that they could carve out for themselves even? You know, what is something that they could create? What kind of a, you know, what is lacking at this point in time in terms of resources that are available, communities that are available? What are some of the ways that they are feeling, you know, that their own kind of personal needs are not being served at this point? How could their, you know, personal experiences on this journey or in this life be of help to others, to create more inclusivity, to kind of bring deeper into this fold of kind of spirituality and healing and ascension, you know, this personal journey that they find themselves on in a variety of ways? You know, how can they create something that's almost a place where others who may have felt overlooked or, you know, underrepresented or underserved, how can there be something that's created, a room for those individuals as well? So a lot that's kind of gestating, a lot that's being reflected upon. Again, that idea of nothing wasted, definitely taking notes, taking, you know, being very observant about these things, remembering a lot of things, thinking back on conversations that you've had with them on various things, you know, that have occurred in their life, kind of adding up the pieces at this point in time. And definitely, you know, kind of a mind frame of like the bigger picture rather than getting lost in sort of the minutia of the very kind of immediate circumstances that they find themselves in. It's kind of this larger collective theme that's at play. So I'm going to get one of these cards, and then I'll get some higher self messages and close it out with some initials. We have personal power. Yeah, so there's a lot of confronting of fears at this point in time, walking in personal truth, an energy of navigation, standing in one's personal power, and also silence being a virtue at this point in time. Moving in silence, moving in stealth, following instinct, following intuition, kind of navigating the liminal spaces between the life that they've known, people around them, you know, their ideas about reality up to this point in time, and really feeling and sensing for different opportunities. So this is a very proactive energy right here. If fear had held them back before of, you know, leaning fully into their process of ascension and spiritual awakening, it feels that they have turned the page in that sense. They're very quietly moving forward, taking note of things, building that personal power, you know, building and creating some kind of an idea of a bigger picture of this whole experience. experience and even of their life in general, so that kind of the appointed hour, they're able to bring forth something of meaning and value of this experience that they've had, of this personal ascension journey and spiritual awakening, and even twin flame journey. For some of you, this may be kind of that idea of research, and what they're looking into is this idea. They're starting to really digest that, understand that in a new manner, feeling very empowered by the experience rather than limited by it as they may have in the past. So let's see, what does your twin flame want you to know from their higher self? Okay, and they say time for rest, self-care, rejuvenation, and retreat. So this is definitely that confirmation of kind of silently observing, taking in all the information, taking time to really digest, really think about things, really reconstruct their view of themselves, of even the idea of a spirit having a human experience. It's a lot of heavy lifting at this point in time. It's a lot of that raised vibration, a lot of ascension symptoms they may be getting as well that are causing them to, just need to take that time to kind of sit with that, to allow these kind of vibrational up-levelings to crystallize within them. But this is definitely a positive sign of somebody who could have been running or pushing this away is trying to go with the flow as much as possible at this point. And we also have follow the signs. So they are definitely seeing those number syncs, 1111, 222, 555, just whatever is showing up for you personally on your journey. They're seeing these reminders. They are following the signs rather than kind of turning that blind eye or dismissing these things. There's an openness here. There's a curiosity where before may have been a very prohibited energy, an energy of kind of like putting the blinders on and ignoring that. There's, it's almost like there's so much evidence or signs of some kind of greater mechanism, some kind of greater change happening within them, that it's undeniable at this point in time. And so they've kind of put down those walls. They've discontinued that fight against their own personal ascension, against their own personal kind of spiritual awakening. And they're starting to really kind of follow in the direction that Spirit is leading them. And they also say, I never meant to hurt you. So they've really been given some perspective about how they could have misjudged you, pushed you away in the past, devalued you, undervalued the connection, denied their feelings. They've come full circle in a lot of ways in terms of some self-healing work within themselves, and it's giving them a different perspective almost of what you've been going through, what you must have felt, what you still feel through this experience. They feel very energetically tied to you, very connected to you. And on some level, it feels like that they're still kind of struggling to understand or fully conceptualize they're understanding the exchange of energy between the two of you. Both that kind of the light and the shadow are mirrored. These things are exchanged. They all have received a lot of healing from you energetically. They've, maybe they're watching you and your progress on your personal journey. They're very inspired by that. Even just something energetically, it's inspiring them to expand, to move forward, to push forward, to open, to receive. And it's something where, if they had been very resistant to the connection in the past and resistant to the whole process that was taking place for them energetically and spiritually, they're now in this place of receptivity. There's a tenderness here. There's an ease here. There's a recognition of a larger purpose between the two of you that's at play and that is actively unfolding for each of you individually in your journeys at this point in time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or your twin flame, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got D, Z, U, A, P, and J. So I'm going to hold those up if you want to take another look at those or screenshot them. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. When you do that, it helps the algorithm to pass these messages along to others who may benefit from them or resonate with them, and it helps my channel to grow, so I deeply appreciate that. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.